Hey, Jeff Big Daddy Wayne here. Shakespeare for these pandemic times. And why not? He's touched every other area of our life, hasn't he, ladies and gentlemen? Not just his plays being made into movies, his plays are still being played all over the world. And literature and people using his phrases. And alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well. Of course you know what play that's from, don't you, ladies and gentlemen? Of course you do. Of course, today, the skull would have decorations on it, glitter. You know, today they gotta jazz it up a little bit to make it more appealing to today's audience, you know, which is, who knows, there might even be a couple eyeballs go flying out of there. So what I have here is, a friend of mine loves Shakespeare, and I bought him the little Shakespeare doll and a book of Shakespeare insults. Just imagine that, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody went through all of his plays. Peace, good tickle brain. Sweep on, you fat and greasy citizens. Did Trump say that? Oh, viper vile. Mad mustachio, purple-hued mouthworms. Boy, that's saying a mouthful, isn't it? So I bought him these because there's like these candies, and all my notes are blowing away here. Anyway, I got him these candies, and these are insult bandages, all these wonderful things. And I got a friend, Brad Slate, very funny comedian, very good comedian. And of course, he's a real playwright, but he's a very literate man. And he wrote, what would it be if Shakespeare were writing plays in these pandemic times? And here's what he came up with. We would have Macbeth, A Midsummer Night's Vaccine, Merchant of Ventilator, Droplet, to sneeze or not to sneeze, The Temperaturist, I can't even say it. Asthmatic as you like it. The Taming of the Curve. Troilus and Quarantined. Much Ado About Hydroxychloroquine. How do you like that one? And of course, his final one was All's Well That Will This Damn Thing End Well, you know. Because people are obsessed with Shakespeare. The true mark of an actor is if, you know, he does Hamlet. You know, we have the great Hamlets that we know through the centuries. Edwin Booth, John Wilkes Booth's brother, who did Hamlet 100 times. John Barrymore, probably the earliest 20th century's most famous Hamlet. Ralph Richardson, of course, John Gielgud. Richard Burton did a celebrated Hamlet. Sandra Bernhard, a woman who performed Hamlet. A woman. Just imagine that in those days. You know how nothing ever happened good for women in those days, but by God, she was a big star, and she went out and did Hamlet, and they loved it. Keanu Reeves did Hamlet, ladies and gentlemen. Did you know that? A lot of people don't know because everybody had left by the end of the play. Leslie Howard actually did Hamlet on Broadway. He was rather panned and would walk out at the end of the show and go, no, it wasn't that bad, was it? Mel Gibson actually did the movie Hamlet. I went to see it. It was one of the best naps I've ever had in my life, ladies and gentlemen. So Hamlet is important. Now, let me tell you how anxious people are to do Shakespeare. I was going to show you the actual clipping I got from Variety in 1984. A man named Andre, I'm going to spell it for you, Tschaikovsky, Chalskowski. But he was really a pianist. He died rather young. He was living in Oxford in England. And he willed his skull. He willed his skull to the Royal Shakespearean Company so they could use it in Hamlet. Boy, I heard of wanting to get on stage, but that's a rough way to go, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Anyway, they took it. They took his skull and they put it in the prop room. Did they ever use it? I don't know. But I do know this. Shakespeare. Even I like Shakespeare, ladies and gentlemen. I've been touched by many of his plays. We've seen how they've taken Romeo and Juliet and turned it into so many stories like West Side Story, the musical. And ones with gang. So some of his great sayings, this earth has music for those who listen. I had to look at it, didn't I? The earth has music for those who listen, Beautiful, beautiful language. This is how much I love Shakespeare. You know, because when we shuffle off this mortal coil, the hour of a player, this thing called life rounded off by a little sleep, blah, 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 blah. However, in my will, I have dictated that if I am so lucky to have a tombstone, because the truth is I don't have no money, I'll be lucky if I make it just to get cremated. I think they'll just put me in a car and leave me somewhere to be towed away. I just don't know. But if I'm lucky enough to have a tombstone, I've asked for the lines from the Scottish play. That'll test you if you're Shakespearean, if you're into Shakespeare, to know what the Scottish play is. But I read the lead character whose quote sums up my life that I want carved on my tombstone. A tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. His job was not essential. He had to wait for herd immunity. He'd have to prove on the internet that he was not a robot. And then he was speaking on the phone to robots. People wanted his urine. People wanted his shit. But they didn't want him. There it is. I want you to want me, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to subscribe to Big Daddy's Nose, because I can make you feel better every week, because your life has to be better than mine. And if it isn't, well, read some play by Shakespeare. It'll take up time. Adios.